Mike opened his mouth to speak, but he could only gasp. Stinking barrel of tallow, am I? That hog! As Gunter struggled to his feet and stumbled toward the ladder, Mike scrambled and slid to the ground as fast as he could. Gunter was right behind him. Fists out, he advanced on Mike, but Reuben stepped between him, a strong hand on Gunter's arm. We'll have no fightin', he said firmly. You heard what he called me. Gunter snapped. You were spying, that's why, Mike answered back. Was not. Pa sent me up here to spread the hay. He shook off Reuben's arm and glared at Mike, eyes narrowed at his spout. So, if you get sent back to New York, you'll go to prison. That's good to know. Mike fought against the cold chill that shivered down his backbone. I'm not going back, he said. See about that, Gunter said. He turned and stomped out of the barn. Mike looked at Reuben and stammered, You think he'll tell his father what I just said? Reuben shrugged. If he does, it's not enough to make Friedrich send you back. Mike closed his eyes, whispering to himself, but he might beat me again. He's beaten you, Mr. Friedrich? Reuben's voice was so sharp, Mike was startled. Is that why your back is sore? Mike nodded. I'm afraid of Mr. Friedrich, he admitted. Man has a fierce, quick temper, Reuben said. More than a few times he tried to take it out on me. Mike glanced toward the open barn door, lowered his voice. Do you know if he ever killed a man? Someone named Ulrich? Reuben scowled as he thought, Haven't heard the family talk of anyone named Ulrich, and as for gossip, I pay it no heed. In this country, a man can leave his past behind and never look back. Mike quickly said, Don't think I sneaked and spied like Gunter. 3 of them were talking loudly enough to wake me when we were coming from St. Joe. They thought I was asleep in the wagon. They talked about Ulrich. He was a thief, but now he's dead. I only heard part of what they were saying, but I know that much, and I suspect Mr. Friedrich killed him. You only heard part of a conversation, and you're ready to put together a whole story? Might be bold and daring as the stories you read in dive novels. Mike saw the corners of Reuben's mouth twitch, and he had to smile to himself. Guess I'm letting fear get the best of me, he said. I admit, I'm always one for a good tale. But in spite of his brave tone, he shivered. I'm afraid of the man, he murmured. I don't want him to beat me again. Reuben squatted bony knee akimbo, his deep-set eyes drilling into Mike's. I'll do what I can to help you, but I have no influence with Mr. Friedrich. He doesn't think much of me and puts up with my unproductive book reading and wool gathering, as he calls it, because I'm the only one he can find who will work for his meager wages. Why do you work for low wages? Aren't there any other jobs? Reuben stood and tugged on his coat and smiled. I don't need much besides food and keep, and my work is here is only temporary. There's a fine job waiting for me back at the river when I'm ready for it. At the river? Mike was puzzled. I worked on flatboats for many years, Reuben said. Till I came down with the pleurisy, and the doctor told me to find a job away from the dampness of the river Miss. I miss the river. I'll be going back someday. Not soon. Mike could feel his chin trembling. He didn't want to lose the only friend he had in this place. Not soon, Reuben answered. He glanced at the loft. Back to work, quickly now. Much to get done before noon. In time the new bell clanged loudly. Mike was dirty and sweaty and glad to stop to wash his hands and face at the basin of water, set outside the back door. In spite of his big breakfast, he was ravenous. Again, Mr. Friedrich had a long prayer, but Mike didn't pay much attention. He kept sneaking looks at Gunter. Once he got Gunter peeking at him, a smile flickering on his lips. Mike quickly closed his eyes and bowed his head and clasped his hands. His thoughts were in turmoil. Did Gunter tell his father what I said? Mr. Friedrich doesn't seem to be angry with me. Maybe Gunter hasn't told him. But Gunter wants to get me in trouble, so why hasn't he told his father? Mike opened his eyes for a quick glance at Gunter, who sat piously with downcast eyes. He was sure Gunter had something in mind. Mike knew he'd have to be careful. At last loud amens were said, and Mike joined in quickly. Mr. Friedrich began heaping food onto plates, and finally Marta placed Mike's serving in front of him. He moaned with pleasure as he breathed in the mingled fragrances of beef, boiled with spices and doughy dumplings, buttered carrots, beans cooked with lumps of fat pork, cabbage salad with creamy dressing, and thick slices of dark wheat bread, hot from the oven. Oh, Mike said, Marta's a wonderful cook. Marta giggled, and Mrs. Friedrich said, Marta does the washing and peeling and chopping chores. I'm the only cook in this house. Mike swallowed a bite of beef, unbelievably juicy and tender inside. Mrs. Friedrich, you're the best cook in the whole world. He spread butter on his bread and watched it melt and soak into the warm slice before he tore off a piece and popped it in his mouth. Mrs. Friedrich's cheeks dimpled, her skin pink, and her eyes twinkled with delight. Thank you, Michael. Maybe some of the food you like so much will help fill you out. Already I see more color in your face. You'll soon be a fine, handsome boy. She looked at her husband for agreement, but his head was down, his right hand gripping the fork as he shoveled food in his mouth. Mrs. Friedrich turned to Mike. What are your favorite things to eat? You must tell me. Whatever it is you've cooked, Mike said. She giggled. Don't tease me, Mike. I'm not teasing, he said. Sure, and if the rest of the world knew about the fine foods you set on your table, there'd be people with plates in their hands lined up outside your door just begging for a taste. She laughed happily. Oh, Michael, you're so funny. But you didn't give me an answer to my question. Mike paused to think a moment. Well, I always liked a bit of sweet. Sausages are fine. What'd your mother cook? Potatoes and cabbage, sometimes squash or carrots, boiled meat when we could come by it. He stopped, embarrassed by the surprise in her eyes. Mike could feel Gunter staring at him, and he refused to look in Gunter's direction. "You gotta talk or eat?" Mr. Friedrich asked. Mike knew that was an order, not a question. He bent to his plate and ate as fast as he could, trying to keep up with Mr. Friedrich. For long, Marta took the plates from the table and brought in a bowl of apples, cooked in syrup and covered in a thick, flaky, gold-brown pie crust. In her hand she carried a pitcher of yellow cream, and she ladled spoonfuls of apples into bowls, pouring cream over them, and Mike heard the sound of hoofbeats. Mr. Friedrich sat up, listening too, but Marta went to the window, pulling back the lace curtains, and looked out. "Oh," she said, her cheeks turning red, "it's 3 of the Blair brothers." "The Blairs?" Mr. Friedrich threw down his napkin and scowled. "Those all young hotheads. So the likes of them the settlers come up from the south that'll send this country into war." He gave a longing glance toward his dish of apples and pushed back his chair. "Well, send them into the parlor. We'll see what they want." Marta didn't move. As she fumbled with her apron, she mumbled, "It could be they've come to see me, and not you, Mr. Friedrich. I'll find out." In a few moments, the door between the dining room and the kitchen was thrown open, and a tall, lean, deeply tanned young man, with sun-bleached hair, stepped through. His trousers were tucked into sturdy black boots, and his dark jacket looked as though it had been made of homespun wool. He held a battered felt hat in his hands and nodded pleasantly. "Mr. Friedrich," he said, then nodded to Mrs. Friedrich. "Ma'am." His smile included Gunter and Mike. "What is it, Corey Blair?" Mr. Friedrich's voice sounded irritated. Corey Blair quickly apologized. "Sorry to interrupt your meal," he said. "Me and my brothers are riding over to Kansas." "Hasn't there been enough bloodshed along the border already?" Mr. Friedrich snapped. "And you want to add more?" "Those Easterners who live in that territory are working to make Kansas a free state," Corey said, "and we got to keep them from doing it." "What does it matter?" Mr. Friedrich's face grew so red and puffed out, it looked to Mike as though he might explode. "We are leading a comfortable life. Why should the situation change?" Corey looked surprised. "Well, it's bound to change," he said. "Those Kansas jayhawkers want to take away our right to own slaves." Mike's mouth opened in amazement. He never met anyone who believed in slavery. He couldn't understand why anyone would. Mr. Friedrich lumbered to his feet. "You don't even own slaves. Why you get involved in this trouble?" "Because Missouri's a slave state, and me and my brothers and me, we're loyal to Missouri. That what we do on our own lands, our own business." Mike shard Missouri was a slave state? No one told him that. He was thankful Mr. Friedrich didn't own slaves. "Foolish, foolish," Mr. Friedrich thundered. "Don't you know what's happening in Missouri and Kansas? Those ignorant raiders on both sides with their causes and their so-called loyalties are stealing from honest people. They're burning houses and murdering. Is that what you want to do?" Corey shifted from one foot to the other. "I don't think you understand, Mr. Friedrich." "I don't understand? Oh, yes, I understand. I understand that someday some young men like you, with hot blood in their brains instead of good sense, are going to ride through my land, burning my barn, and stealing my money before they even stop to think about what they're doing." Mrs. Friedrich gasped and put her hand on her throat. "Nah, not going to be like that," Corey answered, and Mike let out a breath of relief. "If we have a war, it'll be you and those who think like you who cause it." "Not me." Corey's eyebrows shot up in amazement. "If Abraham Lincoln's who's going to start a war if he gets elected. But you're helping make it happen. If this country is split by war, what will you and those like you do then?" Corey immediately began to perk up. His eyes sparkled. "Me? Why, I'd go and fight. By—" He broke off and looked at Mr. Friedrich. "I'll fight," he said. Mr. Friedrich sighed. "So, why are you here now? What is it you want from me?" Corey twisted the brim of his hat and shrugged. "Well, nothing really, Mr. Friedrich. I come to say goodbye to Marta." "Marta?" Mr. Friedrich's words were an echo of Mike's own thoughts. "Why would you want to say goodbye to Marta?" "Well, I seen Marta at our church supper a couple months ago, and I spoke to her, and since then, on Sundays, she only has to work half the day, and you and your missus are at the church. I've been riding over and sit in your kitchen and talk with her, and sometimes go a-walking." Mr. Friedrich looked even more uncomfortable than Corey. "This nonsense must stop," he said. "Marta's not ready to be courted." "She's a marrying age," Corey said, "and, being the oldest, I'll someday be getting a parcel of my pa's farm to work as my own." Mike wasn't much interested in marriage talk, so he quietly gobbled the last of his bites of his stewed apples with a spoon. Carefully scraped every bit of syrup from the bowl. Mr. Friedrich whirled to his wife. "What do you know of all this?" he demanded. "No more than you," she stammered. "Mr. Blair," Friedrich advanced on Corey, who stubbornly held his ground, "go on your way, you and your brothers who are so intent on making trouble." Corey looked surprised. "Well, I don't aim to make trouble here. You've always been a troublemaker." "Ah," Corey said, "so that's it. You're still mad about the time we accidentally set your privy afire." Mr. Friedrich's face darkened even more. "It was not that many years ago, and you were and are still an irresponsible boy." "Well, that ain't fair or right," Corey began, but Mr. Friedrich waved his hand in dismissal. "Remember this, you are no longer welcome on my property." Without a word, Corey turned and stalked back to the kitchen. For a few moments his angry voice could be heard, and after a short silence the door slammed, and Mike could hear the horse's hooves kicking up gravel in the road. Surely Marta will not be so foolish as to marry that idiotic young man, Mr. Friedrich grumbled. Mrs. Friedrich was almost as pale as the napkin she was twisting. Why would she want to leave us? We provided her passage. We made a home for her. Where are her loyalties? You must talk to her, Mr. Friedrich said. Hans, Mrs. Friedrich's fingers fluttered once more to her neck. What you said about the men coming here to burn and steal your gold watch, my mother's silver brooch. What if it was Corey Blair who set fire to the privy? Gunter grinned. Hush, Mr. Friedrich said. It's not a thing to laugh about. He and his brothers were out on our land smoking with some of the farmhands. Made your father furious. She leaned toward her husband. Hans, will it really happen? What, will all you said really happen? I would not have said it if I didn't believe it could happen. Mike noticed the skin on Mrs. Friedrich's knuckles stretched tightly as she gripped the edge of the table. He felt sorry for her. You could put your money in a bank, Mike suggested. Swells in New York do. Never, Mr. Friedrich exploded. That would be a sure way to lose it. I do not trust paper money. I do not trust banks. Do not interfere, Michael. Hans, Mrs. Friedrich whispered, what should we do? Marta knows about... If she should tell Corey Blair... Mr. Friedrich's gaze shifted in Mike's direction, and he scowled. Irma, be silent. You should not talk of such things in front of others. I'm sorry, Mrs. Friedrich whispered. I'm so afraid. I didn't think. Corey Blair's angry with you now. What if he should come back? Corey's nothing but a fool. He won't harm us. Mr. Friedrich's brow creased even more deeply. Will you stop quivering and whimpering like a small child, Irma? There's no need for you to be afraid. I've taken care of this family with prudence and wisdom, and I will continue to do so. His glance fell at Mike. Why are you still sitting here when there's much work to be done? Mike gulped, unable to answer. No matter what he did or didn't do, he ended up in trouble. Before you go back to work, Michael, Mr. Friedrich grunted, help Marta clear the plates from the table. I trust you've learned to do the job properly. Yes, sir, Mike said. From the corner of his eye, he saw Gunter smirk. Was Gunter really stupid enough to try the same trick twice? Mike wouldn't be fooled again. He parted at the table, scraping and stacking the bowls while Mr. and Mrs. Friedrich left the room. Gunter slowly moved to stand near Mike and grinned at Gunter and ran empty-handed to the kitchen. Marta, he said, I'm going to help you clear the dishes. Thank you, Marta muttered. Her eyes sparked with anger as she stomped in front of Mike into the dining room. Gunter stepped out of the way, surprised, and Marta shoved a stack of bowls in his hands. Here, she said, you might as well help too. Take him to the kitchen. Papa didn't say I had to, Gunter complained. Marta's nose almost touched his, and her words were firm. I said you had to. Would you like to make more of this? Grumbling, Gunter headed toward the kitchen. In just a few minutes, the table was cleared, and as Marta slammed the utensils in a pan of hot, soapy water, she said, out, both of you. I thank you for your help, and now you can help me by leaving me to my work, Mike. Reuben wants you to help him cut wood. You'll find him by the hill. Outside the kitchen, Gunter glared at Mike, and Mike could almost hear Francis warning, use your common sense, Mike. Hold your tongue. But he couldn't keep still. He made a face at Gunter and said, you were stupid to try the same trick again. I was ready for you. You won't be ready next time, Gunter sparred. He took a threatening step close to Mike, his pudgy hands clenched in fists. I'll think of something else, something you'd never expect. Marta opened the door and shouted out, why are you just standing there? You want more trouble? Go along, now. Mike turned and ran up the hill to join Reuben. He knew he had just made a big mistake.